In the annals of true crime, few cases are as infamous and chilling as the Manson family murders. The Manson family, led by the charismatic and enigmatic Charles Manson, carried out a series of brutal killings in the late 1960s that shocked the world and forever changed the course of American history. The story of the Manson family begins with Charles Manson himself, a troubled and manipulative figure who spent much of his early life in and out of reform schools and juvenile detention centers. Manson was charismatic and persuasive, with a talent for manipulating those around him, a skill he would later use to deadly effect. In the late 1960s, Manson began to gather a group of followers around him, mostly young women who were drawn to his magnetic personality and his promises of a better life. Together, they formed what became known as the Manson family, a ragtag group of misfits and outcasts bound together by their devotion to Manson and his twisted ideology. But beneath Manson's charming facade lay a dark and twisted worldview, one that preached a gospel of racial hatred, apocalyptic violence, and the overthrow of society. Manson believed himself to be a messianic figure, destined to ignite a race war that he called Helter Skelter, after the Beatles' song of the same name. In the summer of 1969, Manson's apocalyptic vision would become a horrifying reality. On the night of August 8th, a group of Manson's followers descended upon the home of actress Sharon Tate and her husband, director Roman Polanski, in the upscale neighborhood of Benedict Canyon in Los Angeles. Tate, who was 8.5 months pregnant at the time, was hosting a small gathering of friends when the Manson family arrived. In a brutal and senseless act of violence, Manson's followers systematically murdered Tate and 4 others who were in the house at the time: celebrity hairstylist Jay Sebring, coffee heiress Abigail Folger, screenwriter Wojciech Frykowski, and teenager Stephen Parent, who had been visiting the property's caretaker. The killings sent shockwaves through Hollywood and the nation, leaving residents terrified and law enforcement baffled. The brutality of the murders, coupled with the seemingly random nature of the victims, left investigators scrambling for answers. But the Tate murders were just the beginning. The following night, Manson and his followers struck again, this time targeting a wealthy couple, Leno and Rosemary LaBianca, who lived in the Los Feliz neighborhood of Los Angeles. In a similarly brutal and senseless attack, the Manson family brutally murdered the LaBiancas in their home, leaving behind a scene of unimaginable carnage. The killings sent shockwaves through the city of Los Angeles and the nation as a whole, sparking a media frenzy and a widespread panic. For weeks, the city was gripped by fear as rumors swirled about the identity of the killers and their motives. It wasn't until several months later, in October 1969, that the Manson family was finally apprehended and brought to justice. Manson and several of his followers were arrested at their makeshift commune, known as Spahn Ranch, in the remote hills of the San Fernando Valley. The trial that followed was one of the most sensational in American history, captivating the nation with its lurid details and shocking revelations. Manson, who reveled in the media attention and used the trial as a platform to espouse his bizarre and deranged beliefs, became a symbol of evil incarnate, a figure so monstrous that he seemed to embody the very essence of human depravity. In the end, Manson and several of his followers were convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to death. However, their sentences were later commuted to life in prison when California abolished the death penalty in 1972. But while Manson and his followers may have been behind bars, the legacy of the Manson family murders lives on, a chilling reminder of the darkness that lurks within the human soul and the depths of depravity to which it can sink. And as long as the memory of those senseless killings lingers, so too will the specter of Charles Manson and his twisted vision of a world consumed by violence and chaos.